Permanent Ink by Maxine on AO3, Chapter 25. It was nearing the end of August when they returned back to the dorms. There were still a few days before class were due to start back up, and luckily their schedules were pretty much cleared aside from a couple training sessions with All Might that they'd just arranged. Katsuki hadn't thought Endeavor was going to send them back this early, but apparently he decided to whisk Todoroki away on some kind of long weekend family vacation, much to the annoyance of both Icy Hot and his brother. Katsuki had only laughed in their faces, a little. "I'm gonna go find Itaraka," Deku said, the second they stepped through the door of the dorm rooms. They hadn't even dropped their bags off yet. "She said she was coming back this morning." "Eager much?" Katsuki asked. He held out his hand. "Give me your bag. How's your arm?" Deku handed his duffel off to Katsuki. "I just want to get it over with. I'm tired of things being awkward with her." He looked down to his arm, extending it, bending it back in, and then flexing his hand. It wasn't like he hadn't been in the sling for long or anything, but Katsuki was still pretty sure his injury was actually the main reason Endeavor had booted them back to school already. "Feels fine. I told you, it wasn't a big deal, Kachan. No normal person busts up their damn body as much as you do and thinks it isn't a big deal." Deku huffed at him, but Katsuki easily ignored it. "Find me later?" "Sure. Wanna get dinner?" "Yep." "Hey, a voice spoke up from the common room. Katsuki and Deku both glanced over to find Kaminari peeking at them from the back of one of the couches. "Uraraka's not here. She and Sarah went out to go grab lunch." "Kaminari!" Deku greeted, bouncing over to the couch and grinning at the other boy. "We didn't see you." Katsuki trailed after him. "Why so damn quiet, Pikachu?" "You were talking," Kaminari said with a laugh. He sat up with a little straighter, and Katsuki noticed he had his handheld game in his lap. "I didn't want to interrupt." "How was your break?" Deku asked. Kaminari snorted. "Not much of one, dude. I was fucking exhausted. Remind me again why we chose this career?" "Willingly chose," Katsuki said, leaning forward to brace his forearm against the couch. "So, quit your bitching." "I saw you kick the crap out of some robot or something," Kaminari said. Katsuki smirked. "I heard you knocked the power out downtown again." "Ugh, Zero!" Kaminari grumbled daringly, folding his arm over his chest and pouting. "That dick. He's such a traitor." "Chan?" Deku chided lightly before turning back to Kaminari. "We also saw how you fried that whole underground base. We only found out about the other thing because Kachan was worried and checked in with Zero because the news broadcast mentioned something about a hospital." Kaminari brightened at that, shooting Katsuki an annoyingly wide grin. "Aww?" "Oi," Katsuki said, scowling at Deku. "No one asked for a fucking play-by-play." "Now that's sweet," Kaminari said. "I was fine, though. I've gotten the short-circuiting thing under control. Mostly. Sort of? But I overlooked that time. Kinda knocked myself out for a bit." "Zero told us," Katsuki murmured. "Hiroshima back yet?" "He's in his room, but I wouldn't bother him." Kaminari's grin turned into a more leer as he wiggled his eyebrows. "He's with Mina. They spent like a whole 3 weeks apart or whatever, so now they're busily coodling." Deku chuckled at that, while Katsuki scrunched his nose up. "The fuck is coodling?" "You know." Kaminari held his fists together beneath his chin and started making obnoxious kissing noises that instantly had Katsuki shoving a hand in his face. "Holy shit, you moron. I wasn't seriously asking." "So you're just..." Deku started to ask, but then he paused. Katsuki watched as he took a look around the room and caught the exact moment he noticed what Katsuki already had. That Kaminari was down here by himself. He tried to recover, meeting Katsuki's eyes briefly, then glancing back to Kaminari. Have you seen Ida? Kaminari groaned a bit. Yes, he's in his room, studying or something. What the hell is he even studying? We haven't had class in like a month. He was complaining about music being too loud, so I came down here. Deku scratched the back of his head and let out a sheepish laugh, as though it was somehow his fault that Glasses was occasionally a giant stick in the mud. Yeah, he gets like that sometimes. He looked at Katsuki again. I'm gonna go say hi. I'll talk to Uraraka later. Still meet up for dinner? Yeah, sounds good. Alright then. Deku stepped in close and leaned up to press a soft kiss against Katsuki's cheek. One of his hands curled gently, briefly around Katsuki's waist at the same time and gave him a light squeeze. He didn't linger, just gave the pair of them a quick smile as he pulled back and headed off for the elevator. See you guys later, he called over his shoulder. Kaminari waited until Deku disappeared around the corner before he gave an hypnotic snort. Oh, he absolutely did that on purpose. Just let him have it, Katsuki said, rolling his eyes. In another life, seeing you kiss me like that was probably his villain origin story. He shouldered both his and Deku's bags and arched his eyebrows at Kaminari. Wanna play Smash? What, really? Kaminari lurched up onto his knees and chucked at the back of the couch like it was some sort of lifeline. Right now? Yeah, dumbass. Come on, we'll crank it up and annoy the shit out of Kirishima until he's forced to join us. They headed upstairs, and Katsuki halted at one of his old gaming stations, quickly getting it set up. Normally, when he returned from school break, he liked to take the time off to unpack and make sure his room was freshly cleaned and shit. But this was fine. He could get to the other stuff later, so no big deal. Kaminari chattered excitedly through the first few rounds, updating Katsuki on every fucking thing that had happened during his work studies. And since he wasn't an asshole, Katsuki mostly returned the favor throughout with noticeable less establishments. They each took turns interpreting the conversation with various curses, and there was plenty of shoulder jostling and elbow jabbing as well. So, a typical gaming session, really. God, fuck off, you sparky disaster. Katsuki snapped at one point, swaying sideways, hard into Kaminari and trying to throw him off. The character's broken as shit. You can't play him anymore. Kaminari just crackled. He leaned away from Katsuki, lifting a foot and planting it to his side in an attempt to hold him off. Sack it up, Blasty. You're just pissed because I'm winning again. They were sitting on the floor in front of Katsuki's bed. Katsuki kept pressing his weight against Kaminari until the other boy finally buckled, and they went down in tangles of limbs. Ha! Katsuki crowed, immediately taking advantage of how Kaminari fumbled his controller. His character dashed towards Kaminari's, and another mash of buttons sent him blasting off the screen. No! Kaminari whined. He flopped onto his back and let his arms spread wide in defeat. Come on, man. The hell was that? You totally cheated. Katsuki just shrugged and innocently sat back up, as though he hadn't just attempted to flatten Kaminari into a pancake beneath him. All's fair. All bullshit, Kaminari countered, but he was laughing. Fuck you, dude. I'm gonna kick your ass next round. You sure gonna try? Katsuki said, and Kaminari kicked him again, before he heaved himself up. He fell silent as they started another battle, and for a moment, there was only the sound of button clicking between Kaminari's voice was as soft when he finally spoke again. You didn't have to do this, you know? What do you mean? Katsuki asked. His eyes were narrowed in concentration, focused on the TV. This, Kaminari said. I know what it's like downstairs. You want it with your soulmate. Kiri's hanging out with his soulmate. Cyril's out with his girlfriend. I get it, okay? I'm fine. I didn't think you were. Kaminari slid him a doubtful look at the corners of his eyes. Katsuki? Dinky? Katsuki returned, a mocking lit to his tone. He scolded. Have you considered that maybe I just want to hang out with you for fuck's sakes? Okay, but I'm just saying. Katsuki didn't let him finish. He just punched the pause button on his controller and turned to give him a glare. Hey, this isn't some fucking pity playdate or shit, asshole. Okay, Kaminari said again, looking equally as annoyed. I'm just saying, you don't have to feel bad for me or something. I don't. Good. Great. Katsuki slumped back against the bed, his hands limp in his lap, the game in front of him still frozen on the screen. His mouth twisted in a frown. It's just... Kaminari interrupted, pointing at him. See? That! There! Don't even start with that! But Katsuki tried again, and Kaminari shook his head. Dude, honestly, I've been glued to Sero's hip for the past month. I'm fine hanging out for myself for a few days while everyone else splits off with their husbands and wives. He gave Katsuki a half grin, kind of thing, and a little shrug. I could use some alone time. Even, do you know how many phone calls I got stuck overhearing between Zero and Uraraka? She's feisty. Did Midori ever tell you that? Katsuki squinted at him. No. God, ask him sometime because I'm not gonna ask him. What the fuck? Katsuki said. I don't want to know that shit. Kaminari snickered a bit. All right. He glanced down at his arms where his words were plainly visible and suddenly trailed his fingers over them. Can I tell you something? Doubt I could stop you. I think... Kaminari hesitated, chewing at the bottom of his lip. Katsuki just watched him, not saying anything, and eventually he blurted out. I think Jiro might be my soulmate. He peered at Katsuki immediately after he said it, clearly trying to gauge his reaction. The tips of his ears had gone red, and there was some pink splash across his nose, and shit. Katsuki was just stupidly fond of this idiot. He smirked. Or well, it was almost a smile, but whatever. No one had to know. Yeah? I mean, I'm probably... I could be wrong, Kaminari said. But I don't know, I just have this feeling. She got her words yet? Yeah, beginning of honest. She got him covered, though. I saw her earlier. Katsuki's eyebrows arched. And you didn't ask what they were? Nah. Kaminari shook his head. She looked at me funny, though. I can't explain why. I don't know. He glanced at Katsuki again, then looked away just as quickly, his blush deepening. It's probably just wishful thinking, he murmured. Maybe not, Katsuki said. He let his head fall back to rest against the mattress behind him. Seriously, you'll never know. If something's in your gut is telling you it's her, then it might just be fucking her. Maybe, Kaminari whispered. I think we're just not ready to know yet, or like maybe she's not ready. That's how it goes sometimes, right? He stared down at his arm again, brushing his fingers over the ink scrawled there once more before exhaling in a rush and covering his words entirely with his palms. When he grinned over at Katsuki this time, his eyes had brightened. One day, though. One day, Katsuki agreed. He tipped his head in Kaminari's direction. You could try asking her out. She's got that whole thing with... She's not with Ponytail, Katsuki said, cutting him off. I think Half and Half's gonna try his shot with her again. Kaminari's eyes went wide. Wow, look at you with all the gossip, he said, snickering, and Katsuki groaned. Fuck, I keep telling people I don't want to know this crap, he said, exasperated, throwing his hands up, and yet... Oh. Katsuki leaned forward so suddenly that Kaminari actually startled a bit. Holy shit, did I tell you that candy cane asshole fucking kissed me? What? Kaminari yelped, laughter immediately bubbling out of his throat. What the fuck? Why? When? Katsuki promptly launched into the tale, definitely making the whole thing sound worse than it actually was. Kaminari was doubted over by the time he finished, nearly down crying from laughter so hard, and he only came down when Katsuki's door flew open and Kirishima came barreling through. Okay, I heard Smash earlier and Taking's been cracking up for like 10 minutes. I want in, he demanded. Took you fucking long enough, Katsuki said. There was more time in trying to snuffle his grin, so he didn't bother. He was genuinely happy to see his shitty-haired loser friend. Mina slipped in behind Kirishima and flung herself directly into Katsuki's lap, her arms circling his shoulders. Baku, I missed you, she cried, and then before he could even blink, she pulled back just far enough to shove her arm in his face. Look at my words! I already saw them, Katsuki grumbled, leaning away. He hadn't pushed her off, though, so that had to count for something. Of course, he regretted that when Kirishima bowled into the other side, effectively dogpiling him. Look at her words, Katsuki. Oh my god. Katsuki made a show of elbowing both of them until they finally tumbled off. Then he grabbed Mina's arm and attempted to glare a hole into it. I'm looking, goddammit, congrats, or whatever. They both beamed on him. Where's Midoriya? Mina asked. Katsuki paused, concentrated for a second. On his way up, I think. Kaminari gave him an owl-wide look. You can do that, too? Huh, that's so wild. We were trying to show Denki earlier, Kirishima said. But it's not super exciting to watch from the outside, Mina added. It's a fucking trap when you're out in the field, Katsuki said. Guessing you hadn't had to deal with that yet? Kirishima and Mina stared at a faintly alarmed look. That meant they definitely had not considered what might be like having that kind of connection while doing hero work. I didn't think about that, Kirishima said, laughing a tad sheepishly. That's gonna take some getting used to. Mina reached out to cup his cheeks, stretching across Katsuki to do so. We'll work it out, babe, don't worry. We've got time. Kirishima smiled dopily back at her, starting to lean in, and Katsuki was quick to lurch forward and smack a palm against both of their foreheads. Do not, he growled. Go literally anywhere else in the room, but not in front of my fucking face. Thanks. Kirishima snapped. No, not Kirishima. Katsuki snapped around at the sound of Deku's voice, finding him poking his head through the open door. We're not interrupting, are we? Fuck no, Katsuki said. He held out his arms. Get over here, save me from these morons. Deku grinned, happily stepping over the body scattered around Katsuki's floor now, and falling at his side. Katsuki let one of his arms wrap around Deku's waist. Shoving down the slight discomfort, he still reeled in his head a bit when he tried showing affection in front of other people. He'd gotten a lot of practice in front of Todoroki, luckily, but this was a whole different crowd. They were his friends, though, people who'd seen him at his lowest points. Allowing them to see he was letting his soulmate snuggle into his side and lean in to steal a quick kiss was hardly the end of the world. Aww, Kaminari cooed. And goddammit, okay, Katsuki was still allowed to flip him off, though. I brought Ida, Deku said, turning back to wave the taller boy into the room. He'd been hovering awkwardly in the doorway, as though he wasn't sure if he could enter without explicit invitation. Katsuki rolled his eyes. Quit fucking lurching, glasses. Get your ass in here. Such harsh language is unnecessary, Bakugo, but I appreciate being allowed into your personal space. Things de-escalated into chaos after that. Mina wrapped Deku up in a hug that left him flailing, but before long he was gushing with both her and Kirishima over her words, and trying to guess what Kirishima's might be when October rolled around. Ida was apparently familiar with Katsuki's ancient gaming system, which threw Katsuki for a whole loop, if he was being honest. His brother had had one when they were younger, he said. It was one of the things that he'd been able to enjoy together despite the differences in their age. Kaminari challenged him to a smash battle after he heard that, and they were still dunking it out when Sero showed up with Uraraka in tow. Deku was quick to steal her away while Katsuki caught up with Sero. They returned about 15 minutes later, both their eyes ridden red, but they were also smiling, and something in Katsuki's chest eased so noticeably that he didn't even pretend he was pissed when he threw on the race game and cheeks whipped out their asses. Maybe being released from their work studies a few days early wasn't such a bad thing, really. Maybe Katsuki was okay with having the extra time to spend with their classmates. Still, as the afternoon slowly started to bleed into evening, his patient began to wear thin. Despite how much he was actually enjoying himself, his social meter was dropping fast. He just didn't have the energy to put up with so many people in his bedroom when he hadn't mentally prepared for it. Deku noticed as he got quieter and quieter, because of course he did. Eventually, he shot Katsuki a smile and then graciously took the task of kicking everyone out. Except, politely. We still need to unpack and stuff, he said apologetically as she ushered everyone towards the door. Maybe we could all watch a movie downstairs later? Oh, you're good, Kirishima said, grinning. He was hand in hand with Mina as they scurried past Deku to take their leave. Kaminari ambled out next, though he paused to briefly clamp a hand on Deku's shoulders. Kachan's lucky he's got you, huh? Damn straight, Katsuki said where he dropped onto his bed, lying spread edge across the comforter. Deku sputtered, waving his hands in front of him. He'd gone pink beneath his freckles. No, What? No, I'm the lucky one. And yet somehow you're both so dumb, Kaminari said faintly, in a soft, amused disbelief. He gave Deku's shoulder another squeeze and then slipped out the door. Katsuki snorted. I don't know how he thinks he got any right telling people they're dumb. He's pretty perceptive, actually, Deku murmured. He shut the door and then moved to join Katsuki on the bed, flopping down beside him and curling around one of his arms. Well, yeah, I know that, but he's still dumb. We just hung out with both of our exes and nobody died, Deku said, cradling his head to look up at Katsuki. That was fun, wasn't it? It was fine. Katsuki shifted, turning onto his side so that he was facing Deku. Kinda miss having you all to myself. You got me now, Deku said, smiling. Katsuki hummed and reached out to grab Deku's arm, letting his fingers brush over the familiar words written there. Deku just watched him for a moment before he continued cheerfully. Hiroshima and Asura are so cute. They gotta be so exciting, don't you think? Knowing who your soulmate is, but not knowing your words yet? They're gonna have so much fun trying to guess. He let out a delighted little sound that made Katsuki's heart clench in a painful way. I'm so happy for them. Katsuki stayed quiet for a moment. It wasn't that he didn't agree. He did. And that's what well, not problem per se, but it was just sort of eating at him, making something twist guilt in his stomach. Do you think I should have told you? He finally asked. When I first found out? It was a question that had basically been on his mind ever since Mina had traveled all the way to fucking Katsun the second her words came in, just so she could share her joy with her actual fucking soulmate. He was still staring at Deku's arm, but Deku used his free hand to tip Katsuki's chin up and forced him to meet his eyes. I think our journey was very different from theirs, he said softly, and I wouldn't change anything about it. You did what you had to, Kachan. You're too fucking good, Katsuki murmured. I feel like I ripped all the excitement out of it for you. That's not true, Deku insisted, scooting closer. That first night was rough, but we cleared up a lot of our issues literally the next day. Kachan, my birthday wasn't even over before you came to talk to me, and I couldn't even wait a week before deciding I wanted to be with you. Always, forever. Trust me, I've been plenty excited about it. I'm still excited. Katsuki went warm, his eyes darting over Deku's face. The corners of his mouth tugged upwards. Yeah? Yes, and actually, I I want to tell people. Deku's flushed again, but continued determinedly. I want to tell anyone. I want to to scream it from the rooftops, Aren. I want the whole world to know I'm with you. That you're mine. Holy shit. Katsuki choked out, his eyes widening. You're serious? Yes, Deku cried. Are you. We can wait. If you're not ready, it's fine. I just. No. Yeah, Katsuki said in rush. Go for it. Fuck. If you want people to know, then we're fucking. I don't know. Write it in the damn sky or something. I don't want to hide it, Deku said. He was starting to tear up. Fucking predictable. But Katsuki's heart just swelled up as he watched it happen. We didn't have to hide it when we were with Todoroki, and everyone who was here earlier knew, and it was so nice. I want it to always be like that. You don't have to convince me. Katsuki lifted his hands, cupping Deku's cheeks, and swiped gently beneath one of his eyes. He let out a low chuckle. I'm already on board. Deku jerked forward, pressing him into for a kiss that was almost too hard. Katsuki met him eagerly, though. Now, forever, always. Katsuki would always be there to take whatever Deku could throw at him. All Might, too, Deku murmured against his lips. He pulled back a bit, meeting Katsuki's gaze. I want him to know. He'll be happy. Katsuki barked out another laugh. All right, God, Deku. You can tell anyone you want to tell. I literally do not give a shit. I want them all to know. What about my words? Deku asked. Are you okay if I don't cover them up anymore? Something inside Katsuki went a little cold at the idea, squirming uncomfortably. It was that familiar combination of shame at what he'd once so carelessly said to the other boy, fear of how others would react once they found out, and the ever present horror and guilt at the knowledge that Deku was just always going to have to live with Katsuki's shitty 14-year-old self, painful actions embezzled on his body. That was always going to be their past, though. It was echoed in stone, unchanged and unavoidable. But they worked so hard to make sure their future was going to be different, and Katsuki had long since chosen to embrace it. He could live with Deku's words being the sharp reminder of how far they've come. They'll get through it. They had gone through it. They were going to be okay. Yeah, Katsuki rumbled, his voice low and throaty. It's fine if you're good with it. I'm good with it. I'm good with it, Deku whispered, and Katsuki leaned in to claim his mouth again. They traded lazy kisses for a while, hands skimming across each other's arms, sides, shoulders. Katsuki found himself palming the back of Deku's neck at one point, while Deku buried his fingers in Katsuki's hair, and it was actually insane how well they fit together. He couldn't get enough of this nerd. He doubt he ever would. They parted naturally eventually, sitting onto their sides and watching each other with heated stares. Katsuki was having a hard time catching his breath, honestly. He almost wanted to dive right back in, but he found himself stroking against the soft skin of Deku's right forearm again. It was like he couldn't stop touching him, couldn't stop marveling over the fact that his words, no matter what they were embroidered onto Deku's skin. He didn't know why he was so amazed by it right now. It obviously wasn't anything new. Katsuki dragged the pad of his fingers over the writing again, tracing each individual character with a strange sort of reference. If you did ever jump, he started to say suddenly, but then paused. No, that wasn't right. Deku taking the swan dive was something Katsuki never wanted to think about. Not then, not now, not ever. If you ever fall, he tried again. I'll be there to catch you. Okay, so words weren't his strongest suit, but fucking whatever. He was pretty sure that he got the sentiment across, lame as it was. Deku was grinning, at least. Straightened up, beaming, really, as he lifted a hand to cup Katsuki's cheek and leaned in to steal another kiss. He seemed to melt against him after that, bodies arching into Katsuki's, until he somehow managed to sneakily maneuver him onto his back. Katsuki grasped at the hip and went for it, pulling Deku on top of him, letting the other boy press him back onto the mattress as their kiss grew intensely and started to turn desperate and not a little messy. At the lingering, slow burning energy that had been simmering between them vanished, replaced instead with a new sort of intoxicating urgency. Deku? Katsuki panted against the other boy's mouth. Deku, fuck. Oh! Deku hissed abruptly out of nowhere, jarring back. Katsuki blinked at him, pathetically out of it, and too warm and soft of a haze. All from making out for like 2 minutes. For fuck's sakes. It took him a hot second to scrape together some clarity. When he finally did, he realized that Deku was clutching his arm, his right arm. What is it? Katsuki asked, trying to sit up. Deku still had his knees bracketing Katsuki's thighs, which made it a little difficult, but he managed to get himself upright without completely dislodging the other boy. He was holding his arm tight against his chest. Deku, what happened? Let me see. I don't know, Deku said shakily. He had gone pale and there was something alarmed in his gaze. I don't know, Kachan, I just felt, I don't know. Deku, Katsuki said again. He reached for Deku's wrist, trying to pull his arm back to see what the fuck was going on. What, did a bug get him or something? Was he nursed a giant spider bite? Was there a poisonous snake in the fucking bed? What? Izuku, come on. Deku finally relented, letting Katsuki tug his arm down into the open space between them. His breath instantly caught in his throat, and the bottom dropped straight out of Katsuki's stomach. There was nothing there. Deku's arm was blank, skin wiped clean, as though there'd never been any words to begin with. And Katsuki fucking panicked. What the fuck? He murmured, gripping Deku's wrist, probably too tight. He'd gone ice cold from the inside out, and his vision was rapidly beginning to tunnel in on Deku's unmarked goddamn arm. What? What the fuck? Deku, what the fuck? I don't. I'm. Hachan, it's okay? Deku stuttered out. He was trembling. Katsuki began leaning notice and clutching at Katsuki's shoulder, just as tightly as Katsuki was holding him. It's okay, we're still, oh my god, what's happening, Kachan? Where'd they go? Why? Wait, Katsuki said sharply. He bent lower, eyes narrowing as he examined Deku's arm. It's doing that thing. Katsuki ducked his head as well. What thing? There was something blooming across his skin, a darkening bruise making itself known, just as it had the night of Deku's birthday. A stroke here, a curve there, no one word more legible than the rest until everything was visible. Oh my god, Deku sobbed. If you ever fall, I'll be there to catch you. You've got to be fucking kidding me, Katsuki breathed, eyes wide. Is that even possible? Deku was full on blubbering now. He threw himself against Katsuki, arms wrapped around his shoulders as he pressed his wet face into the curve of Katsuki's neck. Kachan! He sobbed again, chest heaving against Katsuki's as he squeezed him within an inch of his life. Katsuki returned the hug in a daze, halting Deku in even closer, pulling him right into his lap so that they were plastered together from top to bottom. I didn't know soulmate words could change, Katsuki mumbled. He was still reeling, his brain scrambled to catch up with what just happened. Can they change? Deku. Deku. Can soulmates words fucking change? I don't know. Deku finally loosened his hold, backing up just far enough so that he could steady his arm. He dragged the back of the other hand across his cheeks, wiping away tears as he released a sudden exhale. I mean, I guess. They must be able to, right? Or else how? He waved his arm as though Katsuki's eyes hadn't been glued to it the second he pulled it back into view. Give me your phone, Katsuki said suddenly. Deku blinked at him. Huh? Your phone. Deku, give me your phone. Deku fished it out from wherever it had disappeared on the bed, turned it on before handing it over with a confused frown. Are you checking the internet? No. He could, but he knew someone would probably have an encyclopedia's worth of knowledge about soulmates. Katsuki quickly scrolled through Deku's contacts until he found the name he was looking for. He then punched the call button and turned the speakerphone on. She answered only after 2 rings. Good evening, Midoriya, Yamamozu said cheerfully. I heard you returned to school already. Welcome back. It's me, actually, Katsuki gritted. Both of us, we're both here. Hi, Yamamozu, Deku added meekly. Oh, she sounded surprised, which was fair. Katsuki didn't think they'll actually ever spoken on the phone before. Bakugo, hi. To what do I owe this pleasure? Katsuki didn't waste any time beating around the bush. Can soulmate words change? He demanded, and then held his breath. There was a silence on the other end of the line for a moment before Yaoyorozu let out a deep sigh. You know, I really must insist you read at least one book on soulmates. There's just so much information. Ponytail. Katsuki cut in impatiently. Is it possible for the damn words to change or what? I'm gonna leave one of my books by your door, she said, in a tone that was probably about the closest she'd ever gotten to grumbling. In fact, I think I'll suggest to Ida that we make it a required reading for everyone. Honestly, they should teach us at least some of the basics in school. Katsuki let out a frustrating sound, and he could practically hear Ponytail rolling her eyes in response as she huffed lightly. Oh, Bakugo, of course your words can change. It's perfectly normal. Granted, it's also rare, but it's certainly not unheard of. Katsuki's entire body wildered in relief, which was stupid, because Deku's words had very obviously morphed from one phase into something completely different. The proof was right fucking there. But it's still reassuring to hear that this wasn't some kind of shitty accident. He hadn't gone and somehow fucked up something else between them. So many words could actually change. Did something happen with your words? Yamamozu asked gently. Or Midoriya's, maybe? Mine, Deku replied. Katsuki curved in towards him, dropping his forehead to rest in the crook of his neck, and Deku smoothed a hand through his hair. He chuckled softly. It, took us by surprise. I can imagine, she said. Soulmates are really so fascinating. Our words are usually quite deliberate. Did you know? What do you mean? Deku asked. He perked up a little when Katsuki glanced up at him. He noticed he had the nerdy gleam in his eyes, which meant he was ready to devour some brand new information. Well, Yamamozu said, taking a breath. Katsuki refrained from groaning and just settled in for what was probably going to be a whole ass lecture. Our words are meant to lead us to our soulmates when we're ready to meet them, or when we're ready to know they're our soulmates. That's why, for some people, it's their first greeting, and for others, it's something that they'll say in the future to a person who's already been present in their life. Katsuki thought about Kaminari had said earlier, about how he thought Jiro was probably his soulmate, but she might not be ready to know that yet. Huh, maybe he'd been on to something. 17 is incredibly young, Ponytail continued. Not everyone is ready or mature enough to take on the responsibility and weight of knowing who their forever person, whether they're even out of high school. But for those whose words are instantly familiar and they know right away who their soulmate is, then that usually means you must be the right time for them to come together, like it was for Mina and Hiroshima, she said excitedly. Or you two. Katsuki felt himself flush. He was glad this wasn't a fucking video call. And once that happens, once your words have more or less served their purpose, then yes, they have absolutely been recorded instances of your person's words changing to something else. Oftentimes, it's something that perhaps better suited to you and your soulmate, but there's no real explanation for it. There's nothing scientific about soulmates after all. Katsuki snorted. Yeah, no shit. Better suited, Teku murmured. It seemed obvious, in retrospect. Like, fucking duh. Obviously, whatever your words were, the entire point of them was to make it clear who your soulmate was. For his parents, it had been the first thing they'd ever said to each other. If he and Deku had their first words to each other branded on their arms, they might have never fucking figured it out. It was probably some inane child greeting, cheerful squealing, animated rambling about All Might. God only knew. That was an entire lifetime ago. They'd been given words they couldn't possibly ignore or misinterpret. Actually, Deku spoke up again. I think I would like to read more about all this. I'd be happy to lend you a book, Yamamomo said, and she really did sound thrilled that someone was finally taking her up on her offer. I'll bring one downstairs with me later. Are you two joining us for a movie night? Maybe, Katsuki said, reaching for the phone. We gotta go now. Oh, okay. I hope I helped. You did, Deku reassured her. You really did, Yamamozu. Thank you. My pleasure. Enjoy your night. Deku finally shifted off Katsuki as they ended the call, but he stayed pressed against his side as he looked down at his arms. Better suited, he said again. I like that. I like these words, Kachan. And well, so did Katsuki. They were much better than what Deku had been burdened with before. He wasn't going to be stuck with cruel reminders staining his skin for the rest of his life. And no matter what Deku had said and insisted, no matter how much Katsuki had worked on accepting something he thought was out of his control, there was nothing but desperate relief washing over him as it truly sank in that Deku wasn't going to have to look down at his arm every day and see Katsuki telling him to jump off a roof. This was absolutely a good thing, but they're so fucking sappy, Katsuki complained in a tone that was dangerously close to becoming a whine. Ugh, God. He felt awkward just looking at them. This was the shit everyone was going to see, and this was fine. Completely and totally fine. They were infinitely better than the other options. But still, damn it. I have one fucking moment of weakness. Deku snorted loudly. You say sappy things all the time, Kachan. Okay, wow. For one thing, rude. For another thing, Deku was seriously just going to call him out like that? The sheer fucking audacity. Katsuki gave him the stink eye, making sure to dial it up a few notches. But Deku didn't even notice. His gaze was still pinned on his arm, and he looked completely enraptured. Seriously, he was practically glowing, and Katsuki found himself staring as his heart did a couple backflips and some fucking pirouettes or some shit behind his ribcage. Deku must have noticed his sudden silence because he finally managed to tear his eyes away from the new words scrawled across his skin and looked up at him. And Katsuki, for some goddamn reason, felt his face go blatantly hot. Deku was. Fuck. He was beautiful. He looked so damn happy and his eyes were just so fucking green and his cheeks were flushed, which just made his freckles stand out even more. And Katsuki's entire soul chose that moment to frizzle with some sort of jittery giggleness that somehow felt completely new but also achingly familiar. He had no idea what to do with any of it. What the hell? He already knew how he felt about Deku. How was he this freaking flustered right now? Fuck, why? Katsuki lurked sideways, fumbling for a pillar, and promptly buried his face into it. He suddenly successfully grabbed one. He could hear Deku laughing because he was an asshole. The light, bubbly sounds that increased in volume as he laid down near Katsuki and burrowed in his side, his arm shaking around Katsuki's waist. Kachan, he sang. Are you embarrassed? No, Katsuki lied, his voice muffled. Deku snickered. You're such a dork. Let me see your arm. Katsuki stubbornly kept his face matched in his pillow for another moment, just to be a jerk. Then he turned enough so that he could peer suspiciously at Deku with one eye. Why? Come on, Deku wheeled. He propped himself up on one elbow and let his right arm rest between them. Katsuki huffed, but barely 2 more seconds passed before he relentlessly twisted it around until he could lay his arm next to Deku's. You look like you needed saving. If you ever fall, I'll be there to catch you. Now these are some good words, Deku whispered. Katsuki couldn't even pretend he didn't agree. You've got me, I've got you. He hesitated for a moment, then lifted his eyes to meet Deku. Forever, right? Forever, Kachan, Deku said, nodding eagerly. Another burst of warmth rushed through Katsuki, and there was no stopping the grin that instantly scratched across his face. Deku nudged Katsuki's arm with his own, then clasped his hands around him. Katsuki returned the gesture so that their words pressed together. No backing out, nerd. Impossible, Deku smiled. Big and bright, and his grip on Katsuki's tightened. I promise. You've got it in permanent ink. Oh my god. That's the end. Oh my god. This is the first, or the second series. Is it the second series? Yeah, it's the second series I finished, but this is one of the first series I've began, and oh my god, that was a journey. Uh, this was such a cute chapter. I can't believe it ended. I want more. Give me more. Um, okay, so small notes. So Bakugo social battery. I honestly Bakugo, same. Socializing is hard, and sometimes too much of it can make me grumpy and irritable and a bitch. Um, Next that I'm going to talk about is my reaction to the new words. How do I explain this? You know what? I'm not going to explain it. I'm just going to insert what my reaction was because I kept it. I kept it because I'm like, I have to let you guys know how I reacted to this. So, insert clip that is a blooper. Insert blooper here. If you ever fall, I'll be there to. No way! Okay, so the awkward silence in the middle is like me banging on my desk, but it didn't pick it up for some reason on my mic. Actually, no, I know why. I wasn't banging hard enough, therefore it considered it as a small sound, therefore the mic didn't pick it up because I have settings on my mic so that it doesn't pick up small sounds like that, just so like it doesn't pick up like the loud noises that happen around my surrounding areas, so it doesn't interrupt my recordings and I could record in the middle of the day without having to worry about yelling children in my background. Okay. That was that was a ride. I This fanfic grew on me. I love the dialogue. If I've never mentioned that before, I've mentioned that so much. Okay. So, next thing on the agenda that I want to talk about is content and what you guys could be expecting. I kind of have two things that I want to work on and are like working on projects. One is a little more set in stone than the other. So the one that's more set in stone is TikTok. I want to start uploading daily TikToks. I'm not sure when because I'm still figuring out if I would rather do drawings or not drawings, aka just me, my face, right? Um, and the problem with the drawings one is because if I do drawings, then the 15-second videos would end up taking me an hour, 2 hours to create, right? Even more, right? Which is like, ugh, that is too long to create a video, right? Like I want to focus mainly on YouTube and have TikTok as like a side thing, not focus my thing on both of them and juggle that with my two jobs and stuff, like no. So I'm heavily leaning towards just my face, but I will update you guys if I do start posting, on TikTok. Mostly what I would be posting on TikTok would be fanfic recommendations, right? I give you the fanfic name, who it's by. Most of the time, it's going to be on AO3. I don't read it anywhere else. The summary, whether it's taken directly from the fanfic or a summary that I created, and then just my little notes on the fanfic in total, like a spoiler-free notes, right? And then the rating I give the fanfic, right? And then just memes of that said fanfic, and then repeat next fanfic, memes of that fanfic, with occasional random fanfic general memes, right? Stuff that I'm still working on. I have the scripts for most of my videos and what I want to do ready for like 2 months. Yeah, I've been working on this for a while now. And then the other thing that is not set in stone and is still very much on the fly because I don't even know how I would do this is lives. But specifically lives where you guys see me do live readings, right? So I would record as I'm live. Like you would see my recording process and just how much I frick up and how much I have to cut out of my videos and why it takes me 2 hours to record a 15-minute video, you know? Um, so yeah, that is stuff that it's upcoming. And talking about upcoming, since this series ended, guess what series is coming? Tomorrow's series. And I'm going to tell you guys what the series is. So, first, it is not in the My Hero Academia fandom. I've mentioned this before. It is a crossover. So, we have three main characters. We have from the Marvel fandom, Peter Parker, and Wade, I don't know his last name, aka Spider Man and Deadpool. And then we have the third main character, right? This one, stay with me, okay? Danny Phantom from Danny Phantom. Don't go, don't go. I promise you, this is a really good fanfic. When my best friend introduced me to this fanfic 2 years ago, I was like, Danny. Okay, I wasn't even in the Marvel fandom. I wasn't in the Danny Phantom fandom, but because of this fanfic, I am now in both fandoms. I haven't finished Danny Phantom mainly because I don't want to get to season 3 because my best friend does not stop like talking about how bad it was, right? And I'm sort of got to the part where like the shipping between Sam and Danny happened, and don't get me wrong, cute ship. It just feels a bit forced and rushed, and the pacing is off. It's a kids show, I get it, but like, ugh, it's just ugh. It's an ugh. It's an ick for me. Um, so yeah, let me read you. Okay, so it is called "Ghosts in New York City" by a shark readings glasses. A shark's reading glasses. I don't know what I said in the first place. The description, aka the summary. A visit to a family friend in New York creates the circumstances for an unlikely meeting between two heroes and an anti hero, but who's counting? Shenanigans are likely to obviously endure, but not everything is as it seems in the Falcon household. Once Peter and Wade convince Danny that his parents' behavior isn't healthy, Danny has to fight to get out from under his parents' thumb. When Danny finally embraces and has one when Danny's finally emancipated, he has one final challenge to face: his mother rejecting his ghost half, and even worse, Vlad Master and his obsession with Danny himself. This is such like I love this fanfic. This fanfic um was actually inspired by a comic, a small comic on Tumblr by The Stove is on Fires. Um where Danny meets Spider-Man and like shenanigans happen and and it's just so cute. I love this fanfic. I think you guys are gonna enjoy it. Even if you're not in the any of these fandoms, trust me, you're gonna enjoy it. When I read it, I was not in the Danny Phantom fandom. I didn't know much about Danny Phantom other than he was a ghost, apparently. I didn't know how. I was like, he's a ghost. I don't know, he died or something. That's what I thought. I thought Danny Phantom died, right? I didn't know much about Spider-Man other than he shoots webs and small little tidbits from when I would watch the old movies. And as for Deadpool, I had nothing. Nothing. I was completely in the blank, and honestly, you don't need to be in the fandoms to enjoy this story. This story is good. The world building is good enough that you could read this as a standalone and understand what is happening and actually connect with the characters. Like, I really love this writer's writing style. I'll have to say this. It is quite a long fic, right? It's only 29 works, so it would be around the same length as this podfic. It would be like 3-4 months of me doing this, but it is a 2000 no 250,000 words long. Like, estimately, it's a little bit more than that. Um, so yeah, you got to strap in. But I promise you guys are gonna love this. You don't need to know like the fandoms or know the shows to just appreciate this. Like, trust me, 2 years ago I was in it blind. I fell in love. I'm in the fandom now, mainly because, as I said, my best friend Gnome is big on both Marvel and Danny fandom. Anyways, I cannot wait to read this for you guys. I was so excited when the author gave me the green light to do this. I was like, the second I got it, I called my best friend. I'm like, oh my God, you would not believe which like author just like, messaged me that I can like, podfic their fanfic. And my best friend's like, who? And I'm like, you know that one fanfic that you introduced me? Ghost in New York City? And they were just like, no way. And I'm like, yes. And we were so excited. We were so happy. And I'm still happy. I don't know if you can tell. I really love this fanfic. If I could own a physical book copy, I would. Okay. I've gone rambling on enough about Ghost in New York City. Please check it out. I don't want it to flop. um, as always, make sure to eat, sleep, drink water, take your meds, have a wonderful day or night. Join our community server. Link is in the description. Subscribe to see more of my content. And thank you so much for watching.